Once upon a time. Isn't that how stories are supposed to begin? That is how my mother always began her stories. But why can't they end that way? Because the ending is usually when the promise of everlasting happiness is proclaimed. What are stories if not the memories of our people? And if memory is any clue, there is no guarantee of happiness. Is it just a myth that there is any such thing as happily ever after? Memory is a broken mirror, fragments of reflective glass and fractures of light, gleaming in brilliance for a moment before fading forever into vague washes of soft color and deepening shade. Sometimes, the harder we try to focus on them, the more they fade and slip from our grasp. Beautiful shards that, when taken all together, make us who we are. Memories or dreams. Sometimes it is impossible to tell the difference. Last night in my dreams, a mysterious wizard came to me. He spoke in a foreign voice, a series of strange sounds that formed a single word. In that word was a message that I understood. He said that I had been chosen, and at the same time, cursed. Lula, he said, because of your gifts of both endurance and vision, you have been chosen to retrieve the sacred relic of your people, the Genie. But another wizard, who wants the genie for himself, has cursed you with the inability to run. Even now he makes his way to the top of the mountain to claim it as his own. You must reach the genie before him and learn its purpose, its power, for if he takes possession of it, you will be further cursed with the inability to walk. You and your people will never again be free to choose your own path. So make haste, child. Do not tarry. Though the path is long, it is the shortest. Though the path is not easy, it is simple. Though you walk alone, fear not. I will be with you. But you will soon have an important choice that only you can make, and that choice will make all the difference. Thus, I woke to a morning of light drizzle, and under the soft light of early dawn, began to walk towards the mountain of fire. Life in the village has fallen out of balance since the genie disappeared. Before then, we had the freedom to choose our own paths in life. But now they are decreed by the shamans when we come of age. There are hunters and fishers, collectors and keepers, weavers and walkers. Only one path has ever been chosen for each person, until me. The shamans decreed that I am both weaver and walker. Weavers do not just weave fish baskets and blankets, they are also weavers of words, poets and storytellers. They keep the history of our people and weave their words into the warp and woof of every textile. Walkers are the wanderers and wanderers, the dreamers and askers of questions. They are the seekers of whatever light they may find to illuminate the darkest corners of hearts and minds. Of all that have walked away from the village, none have returned. I remember as a child, running with bare feet on the freshness of the world. I thought that none could ever lay bounds before me. I ran with joy among the head-high grasses and spent long days gathering up the foxtails and bluebells. I wove them with song into idols of innocence. Then I learned that we lay our own bounds by the choices we make. We invent our limits, give them names, and revere them with fear and awe. is my favorite season, when foxglove and bluebells fill the fields and wakes me in a reverent temperance. I walk with awe in what seems to me the first garden of innocence, but we know that story always ends in exile. Still, spring holds me in her pallid modesty. Her sanguine nights sing me alive with hopeful expectation. Spring is a dormant beauty that wakes herself with thunders, reticent and wanting. As if unsure of herself, the languid roots of spring slowly unmire themselves, sallow in the vegetable black. Slow, but strong enough to cast out the quick of winter and buckle stone. This is the scent of warm rain, exhaling her heart in quiet resignation, a verdant whispering of sprouts. Her tremulous love opens rivers and savages veins. In any event, by the casting off of clouds, she seems certainly resigned to shine. The winter long we waited, with patient urgency, for spring's pristine rhythms to break the spell of frost. Her feast of lights and flowering fires announce a promise fulfilled. She holds me in her lightness, delivers me from heavy knowledge, and sings me sweetly to love. I surrender, unwanting, in the gentle accord of propagation. Her strength is in her long sleep, when awakens the animal soil, harnessing the sun itself. Should I have walked to the left from the... Spring wakes and gathers herself about me in tangles of light. When it rains, reigns she in me, generating new life among the stones and monuments. When she sleeps, dreams she in me, casting out the shade and rot. When she sings, sings she in me, when her voice and everything after colors me so beautiful. When she rises, rises she in me, holding me in her waking and opening to me the virgin sky. What are these ruins? Who built them and when? In the absence of information, the mind imagines what it will. Perhaps it is a monument built to commemorate something lost, or the beginnings of a city aborted in cataclysm. Perhaps it is a shrine built by acolytes of a long-forgotten principle, now gone from the world. Though I have never been here before, it feels familiar to me, perhaps in a dream. Dreams are the graven gods of memory, whispers of our world seen through cubed glass. So said the potter on one of my many visits to his workshop. He spun clay and mud into useful vessels, but his passion was glass. His shop was filled with glass vessels and ornaments of every color. Flooded with light, his shop itself became a dancing chromatic prism. Every vessel was filled with a colored liquid, and I wondered at each one in turn. sapphire phylacteries and emerald filters, ruby crucibles and cobalt cryospheres, all connected with glass tubes and an intricate maze of wonder. I pestered him as he worked. "What is this? What's in this one? What is that?" His answers were always cryptic, only half attentive. With thick glass lenses affixed to his eyes, he rarely looked up from his work. He used words I had never heard before or since, beautiful words I couldn't possibly remember. One word he used often enough that I remember, philosophia. He said it meant for love of wisdom. I wondered if he wasn't making up his own language. He picked up a thick square bottle of sky blue and turned it in the light, peering through it. Dreams are the graven gods of memory, whispers of our world. His thoughts seemed to drift as I noticed a small jar that stood out from the rest. It contained a liquid black as pitch, darker than night without stars. "What is this one?" I asked, trying my best to see through the black opaque. "Ah, this one," he said with genuine awe. "This one is special. Though it seems to be void of color, in fact it is every color. It is not just one thing, it is all things." He picked up a feather and dipped the pinion in the black liquid. "While you see opaque nothingness, in truth is infinite possibility." On a piece of starched vellum, he wrote a single word: Genie. "You see," he showed me the word, "the stone is not a stone." He looked at me as if I should understand, but I clearly did not. He continued writing and said dismissively, "Go home, child. Go to sleep and dream. Ponder the genie. Perhaps then you will have learned something." I left but did not return home. As the sun set, I lay in the tall grass and looked as far as I could into the darkening sky, whispering the word he had written. I slept and dreamed. In my dream, I saw all that the potter had written. It was not the words I saw, but the meaning of them, as if they were the images themselves, cast upon my sleep in a soft voice. "Shh! Listen," he said. "A great hush is cast upon all that is past before. There is no greater love than this, to be so taken up, here on the blue plains, these idle ruins crushed softly to sleep, a dry stirring of angel grass in the silence of sunfall." Listen, in the dying of this song from my lips, how the world came down like life from the night. And look, how unlike an angel sits she on high, calculating her potency in the arithmetic of parts. She may condescend, groundwards bending, to mechanical consideration. Her pantropic gestures seldom reach me, though I strain in my sinew. Shards of futility fly against her concentrated prowess. In such open expanses, exhalations anguish over themselves, seizing the mist I had hoped was breath. A forever unfolding deeper than skin, astonished in a swarming hive of stars and constellated light. How she wept for her own sovereignty, the sky stricken in the rictus of her dimensions, her small presence bending, etching glyphs with a willow stick in the sands of my ruin. She etched comets of shining wing, spiral dance of all-seeing eyes, carbolic unctions and every feathered thing, a metastasis of miseries. Happiness, her saddest magic, she renders with the pretense of meaning, monstrous and formidable purity. Prettily stern, her lips pressed in overwrought intensity. In pneumatic murmurings, she teaches the crackling of winter trees, the leaning of midnight weeds. Like wounded moths and wind-sick orchids, the hands of the world are so small and pale. She laments, how sweetly in me once she sang, and how now so high and away. How sound the mountain, still unmoved by me, and I, less than heroic, I strain with self-laid chains across my brow, cast quite down and apart. Gone, ungolden, this paramount overkill of permanent unlasting. Look, from the colossal and most ancient of thrones, unburnished even now, and desert brown, sand casts the seraphic armrests, no misericordia against the indifferent palaver, rising always in fragile wisps from unclean throats, the misbegotten children of prayer. My prayer, rise and bend again, she swears. I would eat the shadows of the world if I thought there was light through the trees and such a thing as hope. Already we feel the harpies nesting among her branches. Her beauty among us, her presence, suspends the flow of time, defeats the lower laws of nature. Freed from such loosely bound sense, unblinded by unknowing, the infinite horizon expands even as it recedes. Her eyes, only dimly lit now, dull and brown, widen as if to better fit knowledge. The morning sighs in infinite resignation of her falling. A final bending in the heavy plunge, surging immaculate. Suicidal shafts of early daylight guide the sickening plummet in entire murders of unwinged crows. A scarlet thrush battering the air. The liquid trill of tanager and tawtrix heralds us, the aristocrats of truth. She falls to purge what prose such dark miracles may, in glyphs and lying charms. Remember, she warned, poetry loves a martyr. In the folding of this song from my lips, how she came down like light from nothing, to salvage something beautiful from all this horror, this mindless hour, when the world blackens beneath her, some shining thing cleaned of its ashes, and brightly to signal those lost to sea. In such a land we take no notice of broken statuary. Being such as we are, we'll grind the stone, rubble worked to meal and mortar, foundations of torso, arms of empire. Being such as we are, we make paste of angel bone, broken idol quite fallen, uncrowned of laurels, sprinkled as bone meal in the furrows of the world, a sign waiting to be found, unsearched for. Her presence purifies dialect, giving birth, even in death, to black sons of revelation. She bestows an ephemeral royalty to our chaos, grants us impatient endurance. Ransacked and ravished, she brandishes over pale winter the flowering scepter of her disdains. Path goes on and on We adored her star and its blue-green burning, kindled her heart in ancient caves, and mantled the world in her first love. Forgive us our birth. Our lips have not yet drunk the utterance of your several storms. In the lifting of this dream from my slumber, how the dawn came down like water from nothing. There is no greater love than this. She sleeps, quiet as death and more lovely, wrecked but shouldering thunders. I remember waking in the dewy blue field at dawn and rushing back to see the potter. I knew that Mother and Father would be worried and looking for me, but I had to have some answers about this dream. The potter was still writing at his desk, candles burnt down to stumps. At some point in the night, he had made a beautiful clay chalice that now lay in pieces on the floor. He didn't even look up. Go home, child. You have all the answers you will ever have. I returned home where my father greeted me with silent hugs and a knowing look. He is a weaver, not only of fibers, but of words. He keeps the stories of the people and tells them as he weaves, so our history is in the warp and woof of every basket, every blanket, every winter cap. I remember sitting with him among the standing stones in the reaping season when the grasses had grown as tall as me. His voice was in tune with the dry seed pods scraping along rock as they swayed in the breeze. He pinched off the stalks of 3 and began to braid them together as he spoke. "Do you know why you're special, Lula?" he asked. "Because I am the youngest, I guessed," he laughed. "And so shall you always be." It looked like he was making a bracelet with the grass braid. "But there is something else that makes you rare among our people. I am a weaver, this you know. Some are hunters, others are foragers, some are builders, while others are collectors. Just as your mother was a walker, born with a fierce curiosity to explore beyond the next horizon." He stopped braiding for a moment as his eyes squinted at the horizon, as if hoping to spot something very far away. Then, in a near whisper, "You are rare among our people because you are both weaver and walker. You are something more than both. You are a maker." And with that he took my hand, slipped the grass bracelet around my wrist and said, "Remember that almost nothing is ever what it seems. Beneath the surface is layer upon layer of history, all the little things that together make the whole." Knowing this, there can never be good or bad, dark or light. Things only seem this way because we don't know the whole story. Even now, you are choosing your path and making your own story. But your story is special because it will become the history of our people. One day, you will have an important decision to make that will determine the story of all of us. He stood and smiled down at me. What is life, if not the longest introduction? You will meet the genie, and perhaps, more importantly, the genie will meet you. He spoke of the genie long before my dream, where the wizard told me to find it. How could my father have known? Perhaps that is where my mother went, away to find the genie. She never wanted to be a walker, and thought she should have been a weaver. She seemed sad all the time, until, one day, she simply walked away. Perhaps she came this way. If she found the genie, what did she find? Now, how can I open that? Ta-da! I remember the miller when he still lived in the village, before he moved the mill deep into the forest and away from people. He had been making strange machines that ran on water power, sometimes very hot water. He made machines for work, for moving and lifting heavy things, for cutting and clearing trees, very strong machines with wheels and cogs and noisy parts. The people became afraid and began to whisper that the miller was quite mad. One day he caught me playing too close to the big water wheel. He took me by the hand and sat me down on a recently hewn stump. Sitting across from me, he said, "I know you, Lula," in a soft, soothing voice, sounding not at all mad. "You are the weaver's child. I see you running and exploring like no other. You have an inquisitive mind, and that's good. We are not so very different, you and I." "People say you are mad. They are afraid of your machines," I said. His brow furrowed as he looked towards the village center where people were going about their daily business. In hushed tones he said, "Do you know what the people are really afraid of, truly deep down? They are afraid of learning their true nature. They fear the truth about what they are." He looked back to me as a nearby machine stopped working and looked towards us. It seemed to be listening. Is this the wrong way? You see, Lula, the miller continued, they are afraid that the machines may one day develop their own intelligence and begin to make their own decisions, that they will, in a way, be just as alive as them. This frightens them because it would prove their notions about life to be wrong. It would mean that life is not magic, but a natural, inevitable occurrence of sufficient time and conditions. A light seemed to glow in his eyes as they pierced deep into my own. What they are really afraid of is that the reflection they see in the mirror is also just a machine, a wonderful biological mechanism, but a machine nonetheless. They think themselves free, but in their willful ignorance, They are as free as guinea pigs in the maze. Their life is out of balance." He let out a long sigh and said, "Now, be on your way, Lula. The machines grow restless without work to do." He stood and began to walk away, then paused and looked back at me. "Stay curious, Lula, child of the weaver. Never stop exploring. Never give up hope. Find the genie, and most importantly, question everything." Question everything. His admonition echoes in my sleep and weaves its way into my dreams. Dreams that the shamans say are proof of the gods. Could they be wrong? Will the machines learn to dream? If they become free to make their own choices, to choose their own path, will they be good choices? Will they be kind? It all sounds so absurd. Surely there is not enough time in all the world for them to develop intelligence. Perhaps the miller was mad after all. The stories of the shamans seem much simpler and easier to understand. Is it wrong to question what you are taught? Will it make me also mad if I question everything? If I doubt the stories told by the shamans, surely they will think me mad. And worse, they may think I am wicked. But I know in my heart that I am not. So perhaps it would be best not to question the shamans. They are the wisest of our people and surely can't be wrong. Can't find Genie by just walking. I dreamed of a time when the machines had grown their own intelligence and built their own village, a shiny little town of dwarves. They busied themselves with building and making a place of their own in the world. But where were the people? As I wondered, a tiny machine with huge spectacles appeared before me. Instantly, I saw what had happened to all the people. I saw a plaque on a dry shoreline amidst smoldering ruins. It said, "We were here." It can't really be said that we did the best we could. As I walk, I wonder what I will find at the top of the mountain of fire. I have only heard of the genie in stories and have never seen it myself. I feel awe, and with it, more than a little fear. Can there be reverence without fear? Awe without mystery? We seek answers but resist them when they threaten the notions we feel. Often, we prefer to dwell in the dreams of the heart than in the truth of the mind. The genie has power, this much I know. Life, out of balance. I remember the miller's words. Is it our nature to think ourselves somehow separate from all other things? We do seem to perceive in extremes, light or dark, good or bad, happy or sad. When we follow any extreme path, life falls out of balance and we become grotesque caricatures of ourselves. Inside we become like a pregnant goblin, forever travailing but never giving birth. Empty vessels obsessed with fullness. Perhaps our true nature is neither extreme. Path and a life in balance is the middle path. But where is this middle path? I have not seen or heard it. Though I cry out, "Hello!" in the unpopulated wilds, I seem to be alone. I want to give an opportunity to someone who has followed me secretly, a chance to walk with me. But it seems unlikely as chickens that swim for anyone to change the path they have chosen. I dreamed of a brightly colored carnival that came to the village. A dark storm threatened on the horizon, and the winds battered the tents and streamers. A hawker in a top hat cried out from a grandstand, "Come one, come all, test your wits and guile in the house of mystery. Adventure or horror, it is up to you." A game of $60 for the majestic audience. Lines of people with blank eyes starved wide, filed in slow procession into the tent. There are those who simply never choose a path. They know that neither extreme is balanced, but they cannot find the middle path, and so they become frozen in a stasis of indecision. Distracted by anything and following the whims of the day, they seek to fill the emptiness with any passing fancy. They too seek the genie, but they do not know why, and so become lost. Even with unmoving eyes they see me. They would eat me alive if they could. Though I have not seen much life along this path, I look for it. I thought I saw a stag out the corner of my eye, fleet-footed into the forest. Or perhaps it was just a memory rising to the surface. I remember walking idly through the forest one day, simply enjoying the green scent of the air and the singing of the birds, when my idyll was disrupted by a crashing through the trees. It was a stag that seemed frightened and injured, as its legs buckled beneath it, and it fell to the ground at my feet. I could see that it was shot through with an arrow. I recognized the work of the Fletcher from our village. His shot was not true, and I wondered how far the stag had run before collapsing. How long had his fear and pain been drawn out? His chest heaved with struggling breath. He fought to breathe his last. I knelt and lay his muzzle in my lap. I stroked his fur and lied to him in whispers that it was okay. It would be better. His eyes seemed to plead with me. He did not want to die, but could not live any longer. Then, a final exhalation, a susursus of blood-flecked air from his steaming muzzle, and he was still. Silence blanketed the world, broken only by my sobs. Why did I have to witness this? Why did I have to be the one? Where the heck is this thingy? I have held the dying in my arms and whispered them to better worlds. Worlds that I no longer believe exist. That moment, I was changed forever. Something shattered in my heart and was forever lost. There could be no gods that allowed this. There could be no magical place, free from pain and suffering, to greet us after death. The shamans were fools, feeding lies to the people to keep them placated. Such lies are not only false, but cruel. It makes people go through their lives in apathy, in expectancy of something better to come. It lessens the value of this life, this one brief and shining moment of light tucked between the twin expanses of infinite nothing. We squander our lives as if in rehearsal. We wait and hope as the unretrievable moments slip by. I know now, faith is the cruelest lie. sky itself fall and the world be broken. What do they care, those that live in hopeful expectancy of death's dream kingdom? They are empty, ciphers without any knowledge other than what is given to them. They amble about the world in apathy and love it not. The truth is, the only thing that they love is themselves. They believe what they want to believe, for fear of death, for fear of the knowledge that life ends. They have found in their faith a loophole, a way out of the truth, thinking they will cheat death itself, or that death is simply not real. It is only a transition, a relocation of some imaginary life-bearing magic that animates them. In blissful ignorance, they willfully blind themselves to the truth. Even as the world tears itself apart, they would rejoice and smile in glee. There is much in it that angers me. Let's jump across the gap. Having once believed, they can never again learn otherwise. Their faith is the end of knowledge. They don't want answers, thinking they have them all already. If you doubt them or ask them to reconsider their belief, they will be angry and hate you. You will be wicked in their eyes, and they will violently defend their faith. I cannot face them again and wish only for a dark place to huddle and hide away from such madness. I remember, or was it a dream? I remember when the first plumes of fire smoke rose in vitriolic deltas, like inky rivers of decay, and flowing straight up to the last oceans of clean blue. I remember padding quietly, haunches covered in pelts, when all the world stretched forth to my desire. I remember rising from caves where we had huddled for warmth, and I wondered, who shall lay bounds before me this bright morning? I remember when cities were planted and swords yanked in living roots from the tender gums of crystalline caves, when the dread smith bellowed his forge in volcanic violence, andirons red raw with a new lust that gleams on sweating brows, black pupils, the augury of eyes too long acquainted with muck, the shining eyes of a people familiar with black alluvium scooped in eddies from early spring monsoons. I remember a time when calendars and lunar travailing were discerned in coiling mandalas, breathing stars born in calculations on the wake of deluge. When you gazed overlong on the bones, dipped glad hands in steaming viscera of bulls, eager at the searing ides of day. I remember the sun was with us when we fed entrails on altars of horn to thunder itself, when the grim sky required obeisance, burning sweetly to him the incense of slaughter. I remember the supplications of trusted mares on cut stone, slabbed in blood grooves, metallic the scent of stallions sweating, fierce the mad flaring, the pounding of pent grass to powder. Being such as we are, we took no notice of our falling. Being afraid, we ground angel bone to paste, meal and mortar for the new dispensation. I remember the wind requires etiquette, specific manners, and, do not doubt it, hygiene. Here, hunger matters. When tablets of law are cut from rocks recently forbidden, it was said that they give meaning to dreams and cast out the dread of stark, gaping oblivion. I remember when springs emerged in the desert to unbind the new colt's eyes, when monks of every robe gather prone in the seedless crucible, tears burning on upturned faces, groaning in song, a resonating mantra of living prayer forms. Here, thirst matters. That should do the trick. I remember when camels and flies infected the dust in septic streets, a gilded city split like cordwood to the four winds, grubby cisterns of bitumen sliced in dolorous roads and broken on empty bread, when mustard weeds wilted in the zenith, trampled under cloven hooves of shining military processionals, spectacles of bronze and terror. Armored of locust, chitinous carapace of beetle, mantids praying and praying. Not much left, I guess. This weary dirt. I remember we came seeking balm for disobedience. With hot anvils we beat the air itself to tongues of golden light, flames to speak the unspeakable word of silence. When the mouth of forever gaped its throat across hot dunes, contours bald of grain and variation, I remember there is a history, certainly, all but forgotten in dusty halls, woven with contempt and plucked apart by unsteady hands, trembling in catharsis. Ta-da! They said a stone is history, draining its temperance from the cool shade of palms. A stone is history, and an effective bludgeoning device. I remember when the old men whispered of outlanders, "Let them have their wandering, we have our roots of mud and blood." The old men grow dim in their eyes, and weep to tell of great blue marches, swaying grasses, infantries of floral abundance. They tell of silk-skinned seraphs that live on the other side of the polluted sky, cream-colored in milk and honey. They gather in cavalcades, rank upon rank in the empire of after. They tell of a time with trees, great oaks that shaded deep forests. They blame the will of the thunder and pray in the living radiance of the sun. And they wonder, who shall lay bounds before me this bright morning? I have to jump across. What is it I have seen? A fever dream? Fragments of memory? But they are not my memories. They are the memories of a people doomed. I saw the end of their world, their sky broken, not in apocalyptic striations, but in a slow burning. Their end was hard and bitter agony, a long drawn-out whimpering of life. They held out hope until the very last, hope that it wasn't true, hope for something better to come. I saw fields of corpses, flags planted in the ground and burning. I saw millions gathered at a black stone, like ants, on their knees, while the world burned around them. They did nothing but hope. I had always thought that hope was a good thing, but it blinded them to the truth. I saw a young mother looking up to the sky, shielding her infant from the sun. Her tears were the only water I saw. After the burning came winter, an eternal winter that locked the remaining life in its grip. All fell silent. A great hush was cast upon all that had passed before. Their world became a frozen tomb. There were none to witness the snow's fall, none to catch the gleam of light prismed through a single snowflake, none to hum a sad tune for the fallen, none to ever witness beauty again, though beauty remained. The thought makes me weep. There is no greater love than to be remembered. It is the least I can do. It is the closest we may come to immortality. Perhaps that is what they sought, simply to never end. I can't blame them. The fear of death is great, fear of the great unknown, fear that the end is just the end of awareness and all sensation. It is impossible to imagine the absence of imagination, and so we tend to imagine something there, something beyond all ending. I have traveled far along this path and begin to despair that it will ever end. What is the Genie? I started with joy in my heart and reverence for spring, but now the cold terror and numb beauty of winter grips me. Spring seems impossible and feeble in comparison. Branches bare as bony hands are reminders of a season stirring deep in the blood. This is the time of longing, the stark contrast of white on white. What is spring compared to this madness of perfect and complete nothing? The truth is, winter never leaves us. It lives on in the damp, stony soil of spring's crippled rising. She is asleep in the dark roots, tremulous fingers that grope for the mystery of unknown warmth. She can make no promises of her return, though she sings in my blood like rain. It is winter, and we are only waiting. I have become a study of pale shades riddled into the frost, a scrying of ice on a brittle window. These are the days of extreme white, in bone-chilling blasts of frozen dawn. The sky itself groans in cyclopean cloud banks of funerary marble. Through the driven winds and ruptured stone, through this desolate failing of whirling winter, I feel the cold loneliness of the world. I cup my hands over my steaming mouth and try not to cry. I started this path with such hope in my heart, and now I feel only despair. What good is hope when life is full of heartache and loss? None may feel our joys or sorrows. We are truly alone in the world. What is the point of it all? It seems so senseless. I never asked to be alive, cast into life against my will, without a choice. It is a curse. My bare feet are bloodied and bruised from this journey. My only hope left is that it will soon end. I found no answers along the path, only more questions. What is the genie? What does it do? Who made it? And where is it from? I shall soon find out. Perhaps it will answer all my questions. I have considered that it may pose more questions than answers, and feel that somehow I already know the answers. And now I see. There is no genie. Instead, I see the wizard that spoke to me in my dreams. As I draw nearer, I can hear his voice again, that strange sound with unmoving lips that I can understand as words. Lula, he said, you have made it to the mountain of fire. Unfortunately, you have chosen to avoid your fears along the longest path. You have learned that there are no answers in this choice. In avoiding the darkness of your mind, you have succumbed to it. You, who started this journey with infinite potentiality, have since lost all hope. The path you have chosen is the longest path, and so the other wizard has preceded you here. He has taken the genie and even now is at work to end this program. You will never walk again. Your mother, father, and Rofesso will cease to be, and the world as you know it will be gone forever. Program? I wondered. I don't understand. I began to cry. What is the genie? I needed to know. The genie, he explained, is a computational construct, what we call a processor. As an operating administrator, I have introduced a packet of data into the Genie. It arranges the data into information that runs a program. This program is called Lula. Your first moment of being was just before you chose the path. You see, Lula, he continued, this world and everything in it, all your memories and dreams, your mother and father, have all been created by you. You have arranged the data into a stream of consciousness that seems real to you. The other wizard, as you think of it, is a bug in the system. Since you chose the longest path, he has had time to corrupt the data, and so now the program must end. Without hope for this world, you are incapable of verifying the data. Thank you for this learning experience. The grass bracelet my father made came unbound from my wrist and fell to the ground. I saw all the world fading before me, the memory of my mother and father slipping away. Myself, a light dimming in the darkness and flickering out. Sorrow overwhelmed me as the wizard said, "Goodbye, Lula. Terminating function. End program." Then silence. Nothingness gaped before me. My final thought, regret. I would have had a story to tell. It would have begun. Once upon a time,